Personally, if Candace Owens can't come to Australia to see willing audiences, I'm worried that if I leave Australia, can I come back? The same reasons that they're denying her entry to Australia would be the same reason that they wouldn't want me here.
In every country on earth where the COVID lockdowns were insane, there cropped up heroes. You remember in Canada, we had the truckers movement. You remember in every country where it was truly, truly insane, you had a hero put their life, their living on the line to defend freedom, to stand for the rights of every citizen. Well, probably the craziest country, and I admit even crazier than Canada during COVID, was Australia. It was bizarre. It was a place where they knocked down grandmothers, and then once knocked down, they were pepper sprayed in the face. It was a brutal lockdown. But sure enough, God raised up someone who was a nightmare for the government. Because not only was it a trucker-type person who would stand up to the government, but it was that same kind of bravery in the package of a beautiful young lady. And that made it all the worse. Even worse than that, she was well-spoken. I'm talking about Monica Smit. She's been with us before. She's back with us again to tell us what's been going on in Australia and in her life since the last thing we remember from her was her challenging the government in court by herself and winning, actually, 2 out of the 3 arguments in the case, nonetheless facing massive fines. So we're going to catch up with Monica Smit on this episode of the John Henry Weston Show. Stay tuned. For U.S. residents, creating a will has never been easier. Thanks to My Legacy Will, an online platform free of charge, you can now create your own will and choose to include LifeSiteNews in it, specify where your funeral will take place, the number of masses to be offered for your soul, and how your estate will be distributed. We would be deeply grateful if you remembered LifeSiteNews in your will. Visit mylegacywill.com/LifeSiteNews. Thank you for your support, and may God bless you. Monica, so good to be with you again.
Wow, what an introduction. I feel like I have a lot to live up to right now, and it's 6:30 in the morning, but I will do my best to be well-spoken and brave as you explained me to be.
Let's begin as we always do with the sign of the cross. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen. Let's talk about Australia, because Australia is huge time in the news right now. Candace Owens is being denied entry into your country. What have you got to say about that?
I'm very triggered by this because not long ago, we fought against drag queen story times in libraries, and an innocent child of any age could accidentally walk into a library and be confronted with a drag queen reading a very inappropriate book to them. However, adults can't willingly pay for tickets to see someone that they want to see. An adult can't see someone they want to see in Australia, but a child can accidentally walk into a drag queen story time. And I find this really dangerous. And personally, if Candace Owens can't come to Australia to see willing audiences, I'm worried that if I leave Australia, can I come back? The same reasons that they're denying her entry to Australia would be the same reason that they wouldn't want me here, And so that really frightens me. However, I am very confident that Candace Owens, I don't know her personally, but I'm sure she is a strong woman. I know she is, and I'm sure she will fight this, and she has to for us, mostly for us, not so much for herself, because if this is a precedent that is set that an Australian member of parliament can just deny someone entry because they don't like what they're saying, I'm really worried about the precedent that sets. So I will be here to help in any way I can.
Beautiful. Well, she is fighting it legally, but LifeSite's also fighting this because we've just launched a petition to ask the immigration minister to allow Candace into the country. And we're hoping that you might help us with delivery of that petition.
This man, I think Tony Burke, his name is, he's not going to like me very soon because I recently asked everyone to email and call his office. And then I'm going to turn up with, 20,000 signatures from all over the world. So I'm going to get to know this man or his staff quite well, and I can't wait to be there.
That is great. That is great. So tell us what's been going on in your neck of the woods. What have you been up to? So first of all, give us a recap. I mean, everybody remembers that you were arrested 3 times in one day on that first fateful time that you went basically to report on what's going on in Australia. But then afterward, a year later, you were arrested again and held in prison. That was stunning. That was beyond, that just freaked everybody out. And recently had the court case. So unpack that a little bit for us.
October 31st, 2020 was my first run-in with police, I guess you could say. And yes, I was arrested 3 times in one day. I was a journalist at the time. I was reporting. And I just finished a court case recently with that. And it ended up being 13 days in court, me on my own against a team of 4. So there was 2 barristers and 2 solicitors. To be honest, one of the barristers sat there the entire time. I have no idea what he was doing. But anyway, that's besides the point. Look, the fact they had such a big team against me was kind of a compliment in a way. It went really well. I felt like it was a fair trial. The judge was very patient. A lot of people turned up to support me. And it had a very good vibe, I guess you could say. And I felt heard, I felt listened to, and that was really powerful for someone like me, especially on that day. The police weren't listening to me. I said, I'm working. I even had a permit to be there. I have a real job. I have a real organization. I've got a real audience, and they just ignored me. So to be in court and be heard was really good. And it was live streamed as well. So a lot of people were watching. So I'll tell you what happened. So I had 3 arrests. And the judge ruled that 2 out of the 3 arrests were unlawful, which is a 66 it's a bad number, but look, 66.666% win. So I was pretty proud of myself. I was pretty happy with that. But there's a clincher. So I don't know how this works in America. I got $15,000 during mediation by the police to not go to trial, to avoid trial. Now, for me, it was never about the money anyway. So I had a counter offer, which was, I don't care about the money. I need a public apology. I need public vindication. That's what I'm doing this for. They refused to give me anything even close to that. So we went to trial because I couldn't get what I wanted. Then after trial, I got what I wanted, public vindication for at least 2 out of the 3 arrests. But the judge only awarded me $4,000 for 2 unlawful arrests. Because apparently I wasn't distressed enough, and because I'm a mentally strong person, I gathered myself together quickly on the footage. And she's like, well, so you're basically okay. So we'll just give you $4,000. Now, that is an unprecedented low amount of money for this type of thing, right? But because I got awarded less after trial than I did during mediation, legally speaking, it's kind of a loss for me monetarily, because I could have had a better result and avoided trial. However, my argument, which stands still to this day and is a very fair argument, is that I got public vindication through trial, which I couldn't get through mediation. So it's a better outcome for me. Anyway, the judge decided that I now have to pay the legal costs of the other side in excess of $250,000. I have to pay $250,000 for winning my case. It is absolutely insane. But what I think the purpose for this is, and I don't actually believe they're all necessarily colluding with each other, but what I can say is that it sends a really dangerous message. 2 things. One, it emboldens police to be unlawful because, hey, even if they act unlawfully and someone takes them all the way to trial on their own, that person's still going to lose anyway. So no one's going to do it. And the police are just like, oh, cool, no worries. I got away with that, even though I did the wrong thing. Then for everyday people like myself, why would you take on the police? Look what happened to Monica Smit. She won her case and she lost everything in the process. It's a very dangerous precedent. So for those reasons, I am appealing, and I put in my appeal paperwork last Thursday. And then I walked a pilgrimage to sacrifice for it and to see what can happen. And to finish that story off, I'll say that it's absolutely meant to be this way because so I was in the county court and now I'm appealing to the Supreme Court. And I'm sure it's similar in America that the higher you go, the stronger the precedence is. So I think it's a blessing that I've been forced to go to a higher court. And now I can appeal the lawful arrest that she declared was lawful. And I can definitely appeal the cost order. And I'm very hopeful on that. And I'm excited to do it. So that'll probably be early next year. But I cannot have this being the end of the story, that a citizen has to pay to win their case. This is just absolutely terrible. And just to finish that off, even mainstream media who have been historically unfriendly to me have been friendly to me on this topic because they are also shocked. So people who don't like me actually feel sorry for me, which is really an interesting window for me to get in the audiences of normal people. So I've had some mainstream media attention and it's been friendly. So that's been a positive as well.
Interesting. Now, one of the things that we should stress is you actually represented yourself by yourself without a lawyer during the trial. Are you doing that again for this, or are you going to get a lawyer this time for the appeal?
I'm actually not going to say. I'll tell you why, because I've learned something very valuable that is very difficult for me, and that is that not to say everything. So the other side, they had my full book, which tells every single story about my entire life. They had my social media, and they used it against me. They used my open-minded, heart on my sleeve character. They used it against me. So I'm going to play the game a little bit more, and I'm going to keep some things to myself.
One of the other things that happened to you that I understand you're also going to take up is this unlawful imprisonment. What was that? I
got arrested and charged. I got hunted down, I should say, and arrested for inciting people to go to a protest. It was a social media post, okay? I was arrested for a social media post. Let that sink in. The real purpose and mission of that arrest was to give me bail conditions to shut my mouth. And so there was a bail condition in there specifically that I was not allowed to speak in opposition to the COVID restrictions. Yeah, there's no caveat there. I couldn't dream about it. I couldn't sing about it. I couldn't talk to my family about it, or I couldn't go back to jail, basically. And they also wanted me to shut down my business, which that website got over 4 million views in 1 year during COVID. So clearly it was very useful for the people, that website, and they wanted me to shut it down as part of the bail conditions. So I refused to sign the bail conditions, and that's why I went to prison, because I had to wait for the appeal of the bail conditions. After 22 days in solitary confinement, because I wouldn't take a PCR test and I was so dangerous, I appealed the bail condition, and the higher judge agreed that those conditions were basically draconian, and I was let out with new bail conditions that were reasonable. And then 5 months later, they thought they would try something a little bit sneaky, and they got a warrant forcing me to give them password access to every single app on my phone, which they had taken into custody when they arrested me. They still had my phone with them. They wanted access to Google Maps, Google Drive, Google Docs. They wanted my entire database from my organization, Reignite Democracy Australia, which at the time was over 100,000 email addresses. Half of them would have had actual addresses as well, physical addresses. They wanted me to disclose all of my emails through my organization and everything like that, which is private and confidential. And if I trusted them, it would be a different thing, but I don't trust the police, of course. Anyway, I said no to the warrant, and I said, and that's breaching bail. So if you commit another indictable offense while you're on bail for an indictable offense, then that's a breach of your bail, and you go back to prison for 3 months just for that. And then it's a whole new court case, a whole new trial, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I said, I'm not giving you those details. Let me know, and I'll come into the police station to get arrested. And 3 days later, they dropped the warrant and they dropped the charges. So the warrant was, I guess you could call it a poker hand. It was a psych out. They either wanted the details or they wanted me to plead guilty to the incitement charges to make the warrant go away. But it was just a game, wasn't it? And thank God I have a very supportive family and a very good friendship network and things like that, that I have the strength to say no to these things, because it means that they can't do it again to other people. So that's my next court case. And I still have some time to put that together. So I'm waiting for this one to be, tied up in a knot and finished before I go on that one. And that's going to be really big, because I'll tell you the most important thing about that case is actually not 22 days I spent in prison, okay? The most important thing about that case is incitement, I don't know if you have that word in your law.
Oh, we do.
You do? Okay. Of course you do, Jen. Yeah. So it's supposed to be that the punishment of the charge of incitement should mirror the punishment of what you're inciting people to do. So if you're inciting someone to do an armed robbery, that's very serious. But if you're inciting someone to break COVID restrictions, that's only a fine. It's only a summary offense. It's like parking in a no parking zone. That is how trivial it really is. And to criminally charge someone, bring them through the court system, bring them through the bail system for inciting someone to park in a no parking zone, right? Shouldn't be allowed, should not be allowed. So I need to use my case to ensure that they can't use this again on people who can't handle it, because I have the mental strength to handle it. Someone else, it might ruin their entire life. And I just can't have this. And, we've got climate change lockdowns in the future. We know that. We know we have that coming up, okay? And this incitement charge is going to be used over and over again. I have some friends of friends who are inside the police, and they laugh about it. They know that incitement is being used as a weapon against people like me. And so we need to try to close that loophole. And that's why I'll be doing that court case. And it'll be big, I think.
Pope Pius XI said, men must look for the peace of Christ in the kingdom of Christ. And he urged that the faithful give public honor to Christ the King so that individuals and states would submit once more to the rule of their Savior. And that is why LifeSiteNews is raising up the image of Christ the King across the United States. And you can help us reach millions more. Please pledge your support today for these billboards at lifefunder.com/Christ is King. It's a very unique position you're in, because I did very purposely align you with the folks fighting for freedom in America, in Canada, and around the world, because you are that. That's what you're the tip of the spear, and you've been chosen by our Lord very specially to be his spokesman for freedom, for faith, for life inside of Australia. It's a beautiful thing to see. I was so glad to speak initially with your parents, because it was heroic. I could speak as a parent to parents and talk to them of their being so proud, yet heartbroken over what was happening to you, but so proud of you. Now that you've come through it all and you're not on the other side, but you're still fighting, but I mean, you're in a position of relative peace. What are your thoughts post all of the uproar?
I think I gave up a lot of my life to do what I was doing. And although at the time it was quite fun, I find it quite fun to go up against authorities. And that's why I'm the right person for it, because I see it as a bit of a game. But now I'm 36 and I'm not married and I don't have any children. So it's a little bit difficult that I've potentially lost those years. And I was so satisfied, I was fulfilled in myself doing what I was doing, that it wasn't such a big problem. And now it's like, oh my goodness, what about my life, So I'm glad I did it all. But I'm definitely trying to have a balance in my life now where I don't feel so beholden to the audiences, and I don't, you can kind of get a hero complex. And it can run away with you, and you feel like, if you don't do it, no one's going to do it and stuff like that. And it's a lot of pressure on yourself. And I've definitely stepped back a little bit, and I'm doing what I can because I've got these court cases, I've got these stories, and I can make a difference that way. But it's more individual now. It's more about me and my life. And if I can help, I'll help. But I really have to plan around spending too much energy on things that aren't working and things like that. So I'm trying to find a different type of life. And I've told God this many times, and I'm not sure if he's listening, but I said, obviously that's a joke. Of course he's listening, but I think I can do it all. I think I can be a little bit of an activist, and I think I can get married and have kids as well. So I'm hoping that he agrees with me, because I would like that support. But if I don't, you'll know John Henry, because we'll be in contact. But if in 4 years' time I'm still not married, I'll be 40 and it'll be over for that almost. And so I will just put all of my life into activism, and that's just how my life is going to be. And so I am in an interesting place in my life. So your audience could pray for me that, things happen, but I don't regret a thing. And no, sorry, that's the wrong thing to say. We should always regret some things because we're not perfect and we make mistakes. What I mean is that I don't regret, doing what I did most of the time. But I'm looking for a different life now.
Beautiful. Well, I'm sure many of our viewers, I will, and I'm sure many of us will join you in storming heaven and finding an answer from our good Lord as to what exactly he wants from you. Tell us now about what's going on in Australia. What's your beloved land, which seems so crazy still, going through right now?
Politically, something interesting did happen just this last weekend. It's an exciting week for us. We had the Queensland elections which is a state election. And then, of course, we have the US elections coming up. So I feel like a lot's happening at the moment. I'm on the edge of my seat most of the time. But anyway, for you viewers, Queensland is up in the north side of Australia. And it's really interesting because a lot of people moved to Queensland during COVID to get away from the major cities of Sydney and Melbourne. And so I also am in Queensland, and my entire friendship network literally picked up from Melbourne and moved to Queensland. It's like it never happened before. And the church, it's all moved over and the school has grown. It's just amazing. Anyway, so I thought that Queensland is becoming probably like the Florida of America, where people have intentionally moved here because they're conservatives, because they want to homeschool, because they want to live off the land, and it's really good weather so you can grow things. And so people have moved here. Anyway, so I was really interested to have the state election because I thought surely it's going to be a conservative swing. In Australia, we do have the two-party system just like you guys do, but our Liberal Party is actually our Conservatives, and our Labor Party is the left-wing, woke, baby-killing party. And it's been Labor, so the woke, it's been the Democrats, you could say, for 2 terms, for 8 years here in Queensland. And this election, the Liberals won by a significant amount. We're talking at least almost 10% more of the votes to the Liberals. And the Green Party, and that's the Conservative Party, and the Greens Party, which is a fake Green Party because they actually don't care about the environment at all. But anyway, they are quite a big party underneath the two-party system. They got 0 seats. 0 seats. And that is absolutely hilarious and incredible. And it just goes to show that their propaganda isn't working the same way that it was, because the Greens Party is kind of a scary thing because they get a few seats and then they hold the balance of power. So the major parties have to appease them to get anything through. So they got 0 seats and the Liberal Party got a lot of seats. And now I will just make this premise that I'm not necessarily a Liberal Party supporter. They are not good. During COVID, they did not stand up for us. They are not a very good opposition. However, I really don't like the Labor Party and I don't like the Liberal Party, but I don't not like them as much of the Labor Party, if that makes sense. They are the better of the two evils. And if you read their actual mission statement, it's something that I would write. They're supposed to be conservative. They're supposed to be about freedom of speech. So their actual founding values align with mine, but the major party has been taken over by the left, like a lot of other things have. And people like me left the Liberal Party. We abandoned our memberships because we were so disappointed with them. However, that has made it worse because people like me have left the party. So now it's been infiltrated. And so I think people like me actually need to join mainstream politics again, instead of going for independents and minor parties, because we also had, there's a minor party here in Queensland that has been going for 20 years and they're incredible. They got 0 seats. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, we need to get back into the Liberal Party and we need to take it back and bring it back to its founding values. And that's going to be a campaign that I run quite soon, and they're going to really hate me for that one. So I'm still in the game, that's for sure. And there's one more point I'll make about this election. Is that the federal election is coming up here in Australia in May. And I'm pretty sure it'll be a conservative swing as well based on Queensland. But this is really, really important. the Labor Party, so our Democrats here in Queensland, ran their campaign heavily on pro-abortion commentary. And I found that really strange, very strange. I've never seen it here in Australia before. It's very American, I would say, actually, to do that. And they lost dramatically. And that gives me hope. That gives me hope that people realize that abortion is not a woman's right. It is murder, of course. And I hope they learned a lesson. So I'm really proud of Queensland, and it gives me hope.
This whole election cycle in America, that's what they're doing. They're running on abortion. It's basically, what's your policy? It's abortion. And that's what the whole debate is about. Now, if we had a free and fair election in America, I think Trump would trounce it so bad that he would actually just take everything. But it's weird. There are some. I just traveled recently and I noticed some Kamala signs on people's lawns. Did make me wonder what could they be thinking? But nonetheless, there were some. So there must be some support there. But
Trump people are too scared to put signs in their yard because they'll get vandalized.
Oh, it did. Well, there was lots of Trump signs. This the one thing. I was just surprised that there was some Kamala at all. There was a massive amount of Trump signs. It's just so yeah. No, I'm not really concerned about the election. I think people. The way I am concerned is the steal effort is out there. Stop the steal is a very real thing. And so it's strange. We've already seen ballot boxes burned, especially in areas that are heavy for Trump. So already the craziness has started. We're just about there now. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting.
If anyone does know Trump, I got denied my visa to come to America, and I would really love to come to America. So if Trump gets in, we need to sort this out,
Indeed. In fact, if anybody's watching right now, this is who has some access to Mr. Trump, to President Trump, please go ahead and tell him, because this is a great hero for freedom internationally, an example to so many of us who are looking for someone to lead the charge. And if you look at her rap sheet, her history of sacrifice and suffering for freedom is truly incredible. So anyone out there can do something, please do. Monica, give us any final thoughts for us as we close off here.
I've traveled around Europe recently and then around Australia, and I don't wear a freedom hat or a freedom shirt, or I'm not obviously a freedom advocate necessarily, but I'm very approachable because I'm usually alone and I'm a young female or youngish anyway. And so I've spoken to a lot of random people in random situations, caravan parks, trains, planes, you name it. I've spoken to a lot of random people, and 99.9% of them are awake to everything. And I'm sorry, but that is a very rich data set. I'm talking like 15 different countries all over the world, hundreds of random people, and they're all awake. I think somehow they've convinced us that we are a minority, or that we're the crazies or something like that. It's just not true. And it's impossible for me to have gone through what I've just gone through, talking to all those people, and for me to have that rich data set and for it to be the way it is. They're trying to convince you that you're alone, and it is the absolute opposite. But what I can tell you is that the reason it feels like we're not the majority, which we absolutely are, is because they've trained us very well to be scared to speak. So if you're picking your kids up from school, you're not going to talk to the parents about the gender ideology, are you? Because you're too afraid that you might stigmatize yourself. But all the parents are thinking the same thing, but just someone needs to say something to make the other people feel safe to speak out. So it's very hard to be the first person in a room to speak out, but it's easier to be the second person, and it's even easier to be the third person. So that one person is really, really important, but then others need to follow along. And I think what's going to happen is it's going to be like, I imagine the scales of justice, these scales here, and we're definitely the majority. Once people start speaking up, it's going to be like a kaboom moment. It's going to be like the dam will be broken, and everyone who was scared to speak will then all of a sudden feel safe to speak, and it will be an enormous avalanche of truth. But we need to get to that point, and I'm just not really sure how. But I want people to feel confident that I've done the hard yards to speak to so many different people, and it gave me so much hope that people are there waiting for the right moment. And I will give you one more reason I know that this is true is we had a referendum here in Australia in about March or April. And there was also a referendum in Ireland, I'm sure you've heard about. And this showed me something, it solidified my point. I won't go into the referendums themselves. All I can tell you is that both of them were woke, very lefty and silly, okay? All of the propaganda, all of the mainstream media, all of the celebrities, anyone who could kick a football, were on the side of the woke. Everything was on the side of the woke. But the people went into that ballot box in private, anonymously, and voted for conservatism, both referendums. And what that proved to me is that people aren't stupid, they're just scared. So if you give them that privacy and you give them that anonymity in the ballot box, they're going to vote the right way, but they're not going to tell you what they're going to vote before they get there. So it gave me a lot of hope. So I want people out there to just don't get overwhelmed thinking that everyone around you is asleep, because they're probably just pretending, and you just speak to people and you'll know exactly. So have hope.
Monica Smit, trailblazer, and in speaking the truth to power. God bless you, my friend. We will be praying for you and supporting you, and very much looking forward to having you deliver that petition for Candace Owens being allowed into Australia. God bless you, my friend, and thank you.
See you later.
And God bless all of you. And we'll see you next time. Hi, everyone. This is John Henry Weston for LifeSiteNews. We hope you found this video insightful. For more content like this, be sure to check out the links in the description below. You can also follow us on social media to stay updated on the latest news concerning life, faith, family, and freedom. Thanks for watching, and may God bless you.